Welcome to the first episode of Mr. Allyn's Art Room, where art happens. I'm Mr. Allyn. In today's lesson, we're going to talk about nature and art. Stupid bug. Today we're going to talk about two amazing artists. I'm going to do a step-by-step drawing instruction on how to draw a turtle. And I also have an art project that you can do right in your backyard and at home. Being an art teacher, students bring up this next artist a lot. So let's learn a few things you might not have known about this legendary art teacher, lover of nature, and painter of happy trees, Mr. Bob Ross.
People continually say, I can't draw a straight line. I don't have the talent, Bob, to do what you're doing. That's baloney.
Bob Ross was the host of The Joy of Painting, a PBS series where he taught viewers the joy of his art form with a now legendary mellow attitude and easy charm.
There. And maybe some little water lines right here.
In the years since Ross's death, he's become a bona fide internet phenomenon, with a Twitch stream of the show's entire run garnering millions of views in 2015. His show has also had huge success on Netflix, which helped reintroduce him to a new generation.
And that'll just be our little secret. And if you tell anyone that that bush is there.
For many, Bob Ross and the Joy of Painting TV show was their first introduction to an artist, a painting, or even art in general. But there's a lot about the man that you might not know. For instance, did you know that 13 of his paintings were stolen and sold on the black market?
Say what?
Here are a few more things you might not have known about Bob Ross. Number 1, he didn't make any money from his PBS show.
You might think that The Joy of Painting had Ross laughing all the way to the happy little bank, but you'd be wrong. Over his lifetime, Ross never made a penny from his PBS series, and that's just how he liked it.
And that might truly be the joy of painting, is the friends that you make doing it.
As we mentioned before, the show took up very little of Ross's time, and his main source of income was his painting supply business and art classes, which the TV series helped to promote. The only time that his show generated any kind of money was when he donated his paintings to charity, or when PBS would auction them off during fundraisers.
Number 2, he was a drill sergeant in the Air Force who was known for yelling.
It's almost impossible to imagine the legendarily mellow painter raising his voice or acting in an angry or abrasive manner. But before his career as a painter took off, Ross made a living as an Air Force drill sergeant. Ross described his time in the Air Force as requiring him to be mean all the time, a demeanor he was more than happy to leave behind after he discovered painting while stationed in Alaska.
I spent half my life in the military, and I used to come home, take off my little soldier hat, and put on my painter's hat.
However, his time spent in Alaska wasn't all bad, as the state's sublime landscapes often served as inspirations for his work on the show.
Number 3, he loved animals.
Oh, look at that. They are hungry, too.
Ross was a lifelong animal lover, rescuing injured or displaced woodland creatures as a child, and helping to nurse them back to health.
So ever since I showed him on the program, I just thought I'd show him one more time. He is the cutest little devil. And he lives with me and we have a good time together. Hi.
He continued to raise animals as an adult, and a number of them made special appearances on his series, either joining Ross in the studio or appearing via pre-recorded footage. While they were all pretty adorable, our favorite is definitely Peapod the pocket squirrel, a baby squirrel who would hang out in Ross's shirt pocket.
We call him Peapod the pocket squirrel, because he would live in your pocket forever.
Peapod made numerous appearances on the show and quickly became an audience favorite.
And to close out this segment on Bob Ross, I'd like to give you all a sneak peek at my 2019-2020 staff yearbook photo.
It doesn't matter if people think you're crazy, you know. Painters are noted for being a little weird anyway. We can get away with things like that. If I acted normal, nobody would know me.
Being at home so much this last couple weeks, I spent a lot of time in my own slice of nature, my backyard. About this time every year, my yard gets overrun by nature and the creatures living within it. Sometimes it's something fun like this beetle I found, or it looks like a pet store lizard or tiny dinosaur. But most of the time it's creepy vultures in the tree across from my house, or snakes, and evil clowns. Every year in April, turtles from the pond across the street venture right by my house on the way to the creek just beyond that fence in my backyard. These turtles are not the nice kind, and it's best to stay away from them. Every now and then you stumble across one of the more happy-go-lucky or less bitey turtles. And in honor of those little and less threatening guys, let's draw North Carolina's state reptile, the eastern box turtle. For this activity, you're going to need your sketchbook or a white piece of paper. You will also need a pencil and a decent eraser. When you see this screen, this is my recommended stopping point. I would take a moment to pause the video, catch up, and make sure that you are in a good place with your drawing before we move on. Now let's get started. When I first start a new drawing, I kind of make some light marks on the page to sort of make a map, so I kind of know where everything is going to go once I get there. So how tall it's going to be, how wide it's going to be, and kind of where the center is. This step is really important, so I would stop here. After I got my map drawn in, I'm going to start adding in some basic shapes that make up what this turtle is going to look like. So the swooping shell, I want to put that somewhere in the middle, on the bottom of the shell it is. Add the tail, start the leg here, the rear leg, the underside of the turtle, and the front leg. Now I'm just making some basic shapes here. I'm going to go back and tweak these later. So just make sure that you're drawing light, so that way when you go back to change things later, those marks won't show back up on the page. Always remember, in the beginning, draw light until it's right. Now that I have those basic shapes drawn in, I'm going to go back and start making some lines darker. So making things a little bit thicker here and there, and also putting in the feet as well as the claws on the turtle. One thing you don't want to forget is the back leg back here. Now this leg is a little bit higher up, so you're going to want to put it a little bit higher, more towards the middle of the page, and tucked under the head to show some more depth. Take a break here and make sure that you get all of those shapes drawn correctly. Also, for this next part, you're going to want to have your eraser handy because you're going to be using it quite a bit. Do you see those curved lines I quickly sketched on the shell? I would draw those too. They will help with the spacing of the pattern on the turtle shell. For those patterns, I'm going to draw some lines to help space out the shell. These lines will eventually be erased, so make sure you draw them lightly. Now I'm going to start drawing the pattern in, and I'm going to use those lines I drew in earlier as the center lines. I want balance here, and I don't want to force the shapes. Otherwise, they might look all jumbled up. Once you've done that, you can go back and erase those lines you put in the middle that you were using as guidelines. While you got your eraser out, I would also start going back and erasing any line that you feel like you don't need or is just kind of in the way. Let's take a minute to get caught up, adjust all of our lines, and prepare for my favorite part, details and shading. After erasing, you're going to want to go back and make some adjustments. Make some things darker and tweak some lines like these ones on the head. These details are important and make the drawing look more realistic. With shading, I would keep a few things in mind. One is that you need a light source. The light will determine where your shadows go. I kind of like the upper right-hand corner for this drawing. Another thing is watch your pencil direction. I like to keep my pencil strokes the same and all going in the same direction. This makes it a lot easier to layer shadows. Once you have all your values where you want them, you can go back and add all the details like scales and patterns on the shell. With these, don't make any of the lines really rigid or draw every one. Areas where you think the light might be hitting directly or the most, those areas you should draw less or maybe not even at all. Once you get all that done, you'll reach my favorite part of the entire drawing, making small adjustments. This phase is the most important part, so don't rush it. Look at your drawing from different angles, and yes, even upside down. Keep adjusting it until you feel it's right. Thanks for watching, and be sure to watch our next episode when I teach you how to draw an octopus.
Now that you have a drawing of your turtle, you're going to need a picture of your artwork to share with your art teacher or your friends. I'm going to let art teacher Rob explain how to do that.
Hello. Well, today I'm going to show you how to take a photograph of your artwork so that it will be really good for uploading. So here I am right by my window, and I've got light coming in here and no shadows here. So now we have to hold the camera in a position so that it is parallel with the picture and get the whole picture inside the viewfinder. We don't want the camera angled like this or like this, because that's going to make the picture look the wrong shape. So we take a photograph and it should look something like this. Okay, so now we've got the whole picture inside the frame. Now I need to look at this very carefully to see, is it sharp? Did I move my camera? Is it blurry? And maybe I need to take it again. So I'll do a second one, and I'll just make sure I'll hold it very, very steady and take a photograph. That's great. So now that's ready for uploading. Now this is a crayon drawing, so that's easy. But what if I'm photographing something that's shiny? Okay, so here's a photograph, and if I stand here with the light in front of me and this here and then my camera here, sometimes I'm going to get light bouncing off and it will make reflections on this. So the trick is go sideways. So here it is. Here's the light coming in this way and the reflections are going that way. So I'm going to stand this way and hold my camera here and be very steady, take the photograph, and there we are. So now we're all ready to make really great photographs so that you can show your artwork in its best possible light. Good luck.
So basically your artwork is based on what you find.
Yes.
And you kind of recycle.
Yes. I think it's really beautiful that I can go everywhere in the world and I can just go to a dump and then I can find this much wood and I can create something like 22 feet big sculpture. Happy that I'm able to take trash and then turn it into something really big that people will come to see and they'll be like, whoa, did you see that big shark? And then when they look at that shark and understand that it's just made from trash, then maybe that same person will be like, oh, maybe I shouldn't go and cut down a tree in the rainforest just to build a doghouse. Maybe I could make my doghouse out of my own trash instead. And that's also why I think it's important to use the local trash and to show people that there is so much treasure hidden in that trash.
I was lucky enough to see one of Thomas Dambo's trolls while on vacation this past September. This is Isaac Hardstone, and he is located on a trail in Breckenridge, Colorado.
For this project, all you need is a camera or an electronic device to take pictures.
These photos look like they might have been photoshopped or painted to look the way they do, but they haven't been. This is the work of Andy Goldsworthy. He finds items in nature and he organizes them in an interesting way, and then he takes photographs. So like Andy's work, we're going to go outside and create a sculpture. Look for things in your yard like pine cones, sticks, rocks, leaves, or anything else that you think looks interesting. Make an arrangement and then take a picture. Take your time when photographing though, because that's the last and most important step.
Well, that's our show. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I'll see you next week.
And do these little X's, see? Little X's. There. That's just the way the teacher used to grade my paper in school. She just run across it and go ch-ch-ch-ch-ch. Just think about that when you're doing it. Little X's.